What is up? Welcome to the Good Life Property Management Podcast. This is Steve Welty, your host. And if you're interested in building a bigger future, as always, you are in the right place. I am talking with an awesome human being today named Jake Durtschi. And Jake owns a property management company in Idaho. And he's also in the Tribe Mastermind, where I met him in person the first time about, less than a month ago, I guess. And man, I was so blown away with his take on things, how he approaches his company, his team, his business, and just overall inspiring guy. And I got Jake here. Jake, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, Steve? Thanks a lot for having me today.
Yeah, man. Thank you for joining us. So there's a lot we could talk about, but what I wanted to start off with, which I found one of the most interesting things from the first mastermind event, was your employee fund and how you're running essentially a fund that's helping your team buy real estate or become part owner in a real estate investment. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that got started?
So, one of the challenges that I've had to face as a property manager is trying to get the team to have a high level of empathy for what it's like to be an investor. Um, I find that lots of people think that investors are rich and so it affects decision making. So, for example, somebody might say, "Oh, they got plenty of money. Let's just replace that toilet instead of repairing the toilet," or lots of decision making like, "Oh, we don't have to get rent up $50, even though that's what market is. We can leave it low. Those guys have tons of money. Let's not worry about it." And so I was having a little bit of an issue with an empathy gap there, number one. Number two, I find that just as people, we're very into what we want right now, and the delayed gratification thing is something that I think we're all kind of facing and dealing with. And so part of what I wanted to create or try to help create is, number one, some empathy for our customers, and number two, a way to create some passive revenue and to experience what it's like to be an investor for every single team member that joins Jacob Grant.
Very cool. Very cool. So walk us through how this works. Well, before I say that, something else that I found really appealing to this has to be like a sticky program, I would think. I don't know very many companies doing this that would give someone maybe that has no means of buying a house on their own the ability to become an investor. So is that something you've also seen where this is like kind of like a recruiting / stick around tool to make the team more happy and stay longer?
Yeah, I think there's been challenges around that because on both sides of that. So, for example, one of the challenges we've had is it takes a while to save up enough money to create, to have a down payment for an investment property.
Right.
So now I'm asking people to delay gratification again. And so at one point, I actually just boosted it and said, "Hey, I'm going to throw a bunch of money at this so we can at least have something." The fourplex came up that I thought would be a good candidate for the employee fund. And so I actually tossed in a bunch of my own money to boost it. So that's one of the challenges. But the other challenge is, lots of times the properties we're buying are value add. That's one of the best opportunities I've found with real estate investing with my own portfolio. And so I've tried to transition that over. Well, when you do a value add property, lots of times the first year to 2 years, there's a heavier investment and higher expense ratio than you might find with a typical, brand new, super highly performing fourplex that's been in our portfolio for multiple years. And so there has been a couple of challenges with that, trying to continue to keep people on board. But I think there's lots of the team is starting to see, like, wow, we're like, hey, that's our fourplex, that's our duplex, and having that influence over it and going in and doing work for the customers, for the residents in my fourplex, in my duplex, I think it definitely gives it a lot more stickiness. And we continue to communicate and talk about it. And so people, I think it improves stickiness with more communication.
Yeah. And I like when we talked offline, you said you wanted to give them some money that was meaningful. Can you explain how you tied this? Like, where does the money come from that they put in? Is it just out of their pocket or is it from bonuses? Can you tell us about that?
So we do annual profit sharing. And so when we do the profit sharing, basically the profit share that they receive gets matched in the employee fund. And with that, they're able to buy equity in the company that's already there. That's what the employee fund is. Mm-hmm. And so every year their equity position increases.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So it gives them the owner mentality, it gives them equity in the company. What are, besides people having the money, I can see how that could be a challenge. I like how you boosted it. That's something I was planning on doing. In fact, I was planning on becoming or being probably the majority shareholder, obviously. Are you the majority shareholder or were you trying to keep it more even?
No, I'm definitely the majority shareholder in the company. There's a few reasons to do that maybe and not do that, depending on how you foresee the company going. If you start to lose a majority, then you can get outvoted on decisions. And right. So if you have a vision for how it should go, it makes sense that you would be the majority equity position. But it kind of depends on what you want to do. I actually see my position phasing out, mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily. I want to give it the initial boost and start to see cash flow and start to see properties turn, and so people can start to see. Because one of the things I'm good at is being able to visualize something and then create it. But mm-hmm. I think what I'm going to find is, okay, you did your step, you visualized it, you created it, and now it's time to hand it over to the other team members because they'll probably be able to take it to the next level better than I will as kind of the majority shareholder. So I plan on that phasing out over time, but as it's just getting going, I think it's important that I am the majority shareholder.
Yeah. What about being like, I think we both come from a similar point of view where our teams are really champions for us and they mean a lot to us and we don't want to be the only one winning as the entrepreneur. And so we do these types of programs. But at the same time, we have to be smart. I would think initially, at least initially, you need to be 100% in charge. You did mention that there was some voting rights where people could vote when money could come in or out, like if someone wanted to be bought out of the fund or in. Can you explain how that's been? Are you an equal voter in that regard? And what other powers does the team have, maybe as far as control?
So right now, you basically get a vote depending on how much equity you have. So we've assigned a share value, and I don't know exactly what that is, but let's just say it's $1,000 per share, and every one of those equity positions gets one vote. But I think the point isn't necessarily that I'm making the decisions. It's that we're having a board meeting. We're going through the process. We're saying, here's a decision we need to make, and we kind of debate that decision. And so every single team member has, they may not be able to change the vote, but they have influence and they're being kept in the loop and they're a true owner of the company and they're treated like a true owner of the company.
Got it. I think that's important. Having partnerships that have went not ideally in the past, I think, you won't want to protect yourself. But I mean, it sounds like you're really putting yourself out there and saying, okay, we're going to all have an equal, or not an equal share, but we're all going to have some say. So is there any situation, like what if all of your team wanted to buy some property that you just thought was a horrible investment, or like wanted to do something that you just thought was a horrible idea? How did you protect yourself from that? Or what do you think about that?
So far, that just hasn't been an issue. I know that can be an issue, and I know that bad decisions are made, but it just hasn't come up yet. I mean, basically, we're making very, very simple decisions. So, for example, we own this fourplex, we own this duplex. How did it perform last year? What's the value of it? Are we going to be able to sell that and turn it into another property and make more money?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we going to do better if we just sit on the cash flow for now? And we're making decisions kind of like that and based on that. Most of the decisions, though, we're going out and doing the research and making the recommendations for them because, you know, we have a couple of team members that are, you know, investors individually outside of this completely. They do their own portfolio, but it's not the majority for sure. So they're looking for advice. They're looking for somebody to make recommendations. They're looking for kind of that leadership. And so, I mean, it really fits in. These type of decisions, I really like them making because then they can start to see what kind of decisions their customers are making, then the investors are making, and what kind of recommendations they might be able to make to them to help their portfolio perform better. Like, hey, you know, I think you're going to be better off if we flip this property. Let's go sell this property, and I think we can make this money. Let's say right now, your equity's, you know, performing at about a 6% rate. I think we can make it perform at 8% or whatever percent you think you can make it perform at. And thinking about it more in performance terms rather than like, oh, that looks like a cool house. That's good. I like that blue siding. Let's go buy that house.
Right.
It's more filtered through performance, which is in alignment with what our owners and investors are doing.
Yeah. So you're the majority shareholder, at least for now. I like that you have the vision to eventually phase yourself out and let it run. That's really cool. But on voting powers, do you have an equal vote with everyone else?
I have votes according to my equity position. So since I have more equity, I have more votes.
Perfect. Got it. That's what I wanted to just to make sure of. So what about active versus inactive members of the fund? I have some people that have zero interest in learning real estate, but would like to participate financially. How do you handle that?
They can opt in or opt out. So most people opt in because it doesn't cost them anything. It's kind of a matching funds type of thing. So yeah, everyone, you know, kind of automatically joins in. And then if they decide they want to pull their cash out and withdraw, they certainly have that right. Also, I'll mention that we have past employees that have taken their career a different direction that are still equity position holders in the company, and we think it's great. We are not encouraging them or forcing them to sell out. We look at that as, you know, they helped us get where we are today, and team members are going to move in and out, and we want to. That's okay. Forward movement is encouraged and is great, and we don't want to push people out because of it.
Right. Very cool. So what about the people though that, and I'm asking because I have like this specific situation. I have a handful of people that are very active. They want to help find the deals. They want to evaluate the deals. They want to do a lot of legwork. And then you have people that want to be in it, but don't want to do anything, just put money in. So how do you handle that sweat equity, piece of the pie, I guess, or if there is one?
I think people have to just understand that everything's not going to be perfectly fair. It's not going to be exact. We're probably not going to be paying labor for going to find deals, or maybe we are. Maybe we decide as a team we're gonna go hire somebody we need somebody chasing down deals or sending out postcards or doing whatever we want to do. Then that would just be a company decision of the company that, hey, we're going to pay whatever dollars a month to pay for this service. And then if somebody on the team wants to apply to do that work, great. But as far as giving people more equity for doing the work, I think it gets to be a clarity issue and like, hey, how come Billy gets to, how come we're paying Billy to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I mean, remember the guy who talks about the seats on the bus? I think you have to design the seats on the bus before you fill the seats. So if you decide you want a seat on your employee fund bus, design the seat and then fill it.
Got it. That makes sense. Um, so you have multiple, so I want to give the listeners a little bit of the tactical stuff about how it's set up if they have questions about that. So you have an LLC and you have multiple properties in one LLC.
Yes.
Okay. And money can come in and out. How does money come in and out?
So we've tried to make it extremely simple because we have a third party accountant do it. And so we have made a rule that you can only have money go in or out. Accounting's only done one time per year. Because as the cash changes, the value of your equity changes in dollars. Maybe it stays the same as a percentage, but it changes in dollars. And so just to keep things extremely simple, we've decided to do that once per year. We also set a rule on, the value of the property. We don't want the value of the property changing every single year. Let me rephrase that. We don't want to pay for an appraisal every single year.
Right.
So we just have rules set up to say, hey, the value of the property, even though we put money in the property and the property is maybe not worth exactly as much as when we bought it, it's close enough that we're going to use that purchase price as the value for the next 5 years. And I can't remember all those details, but 5 years is sticking out in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 5 years, if somebody wants to pull money out or there's another transaction, then at that time we do some sort of appraisal. And so people can reevaluate their equity positions.
Got it. That's very cool. I love that. Besides the struggle you talked about where sometimes it takes some time to get a snowball of money accumulated to actually purchase something. Is there any other big issues you've come across that come to mind, or maybe something you wish you would have done differently that you learned along the way?
Yeah, I think you touched on the main one. I wish I would have just put a bunch of cash in it just to start off with. So that would be one piece of advice I would give. The other one, I think I would communicate more often. I think I'd communicate on a quarterly basis at minimum. And when I say communicate, I mean actually have a board meeting to try to keep people engaged with, here's what's going on with your property. Here's what the cash flow's been for the last little while. Here's, an idea of what the whole thing's worth. If you look at all the cash in the bank and look at the value of the property and then subtract off the debt, here's kind of what the valuation's at. Here's how we're doing. Here's how your business is doing. I think if we did that more often, we could keep people engaged, bought in, and a little more excited about the property and the performance over a longer period of time.
Yeah, I love that, because the handful of people, 4 or 5 people in my office that are really interested, and the reason I started thinking about this idea, and then luckily I was able to meet you and take me even further down the field, is they're really interested in real estate investing, and they want to pursue that. And so we've been meeting weekly actually as we're getting this off the ground to look at deals. We were looking at a state at one point, and now we're kind of looking back, and we're looking at all different areas, but they're getting a great learning experience, something a lot of us as brokers or company owners have to give. And it's like totally the theme of this podcast, which is helping people build a bigger future. That's what you're doing. And I love what you said about it's your business. It's like, I lose sight of that too. It's like, this is a business. This is an LLC. This is a business. You're now a business owner. We're in business together. We're buying rental property, and that's pretty exciting. We're in America. You can do anything, right? So I love the forward thinking on that. Anything else come to mind about it, Jake, or anything else you're working on that you want to talk about?
No, I think whatever I can do to communicate more and to engage more with team members and to give them a piece and grow their future. I get excited about. So I'm always looking to improve that and grow that.
Totally, man. Well, Jake, thanks so much for being on the show, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon, man.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thanks, brother.